There's a man grilling hot dogs on my patio. I don't know his name. He's wearing my apron and just asked if I have any Dijon mustard. Behind him, 3 kids are cannonballing into my pool, and a woman is using my garden hose to rinse off her dog. Someone's parked their Honda Civic on my actual lawn. And all of this is happening on my property, my private backyard that I paid for, maintained, and explicitly have fenced and deeded as mine. At first I think I'm hallucinating. Maybe I blacked out and woke up in an alternate universe where I Airbnb my house without knowing. But then I see her Karen Thompson wearing her khaki capris and oversized sunglasses, clipboard in hand, like some suburban general inspecting her troops. She's walking around like she owns the place, which is funny because last I checked her house is 4 doors down and nowhere near this disaster she's orchestrating on my turf. That's when it hits me. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's a full-blown turf invasion. And if she wants war, she picked the wrong backyard. It all started 3 months ago when I moved into what was supposed to be a peaceful cul-de-sac on the edge of Cascadia Hills. I work remotely as a software engineer, which basically means I spend my days talking to people in 3 time zones while wearing pajama bottoms. All I wanted was a quiet place with decent Wi-Fi and enough yard to install a grill and maybe a hammock. This house had everything: space, privacy, and a generous backyard that backed up to a green belt. It was perfect until I met Karen. Karen is the self-appointed queen of the HOA. Though no one remembers ever voting for her, she's got that permanent squint that screams suspicion and a tone that turns every sentence into an accusation. Within the first week, she dropped off a 10-page welcome packet filled with rules, half of which seemed made up, including one stating that lawn decorations may not exceed 4 inches in height unless seasonally sanctioned, whatever that means. I smiled, nodded, and mentally filed her under handle with extreme caution. The first couple of weeks were uneventful aside from a few passive-aggressive notes about my trash bins being too visible from the street. Then came the Saturday. I walked out back to water the succulents and nearly tripped over a cooler full of beer that wasn't mine. Looking up, I saw the invasion in full swing. People lounging under umbrellas, a folding table covered in chips and salsa, some dude making margaritas, and a blender plugged into my outdoor outlet. My outdoor outlet. I tried to approach calmly. I tapped the guy at the grill on the shoulder and asked, "Excuse me, but what's going on here?" He smiled like I was the weird one and said, "Oh, hey, Karen said we could use the community space today. Great spot. By the way, you must live nearby." That's when I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because if I didn't, I'd scream. I told him this wasn't community space. It was my backyard. He blinked, then pointed at Karen, who was holding court by the pool and handing out reusable plates. Marching over to her felt like walking into enemy territory. "Karen," I said, keeping my voice even, "why are there strangers in my backyard?" She didn't flinch. "Oh, hi, Jake. Don't be silly. This is community green space. It's marked on the HOA's original property map. Didn't you read the handbook?" She gestured to the crowd like she was hosting a neighborhood potluck and I was the awkward guy who forgot to bring a dish. I told her I had the updated property plat filed with the city, clearly marking the entire area as my private lot. Her smile didn't even flicker. "Maps can be misleading," she said. "Besides, you weren't using it." I stood there stunned, surrounded by potato salad thieves and pool float invaders, and realized Karen wasn't just mistaken. She had orchestrated this. She'd invited people onto land she didn't own and convinced them it was some kind of shared amenity. And worse, she was completely unbothered when confronted. I asked her to get everyone to leave. She told me to chill out and enjoy the sense of community. That's when I knew this wasn't going to be solved with a polite conversation. I called the non-emergency police line just to check my options. The officer I spoke with said that yes, legally I could ask everyone to leave and consider it trespassing if they refused. But he also warned that if I wanted long-term peace, I might need to take it up with the HOA, which was laughable because the HOA was the problem. And it wasn't just today. Neighbors I barely knew started telling me stories. Karen rerouting dog-walking paths across driveways. Karen unlocking people's gates for maintenance workers without notice. Karen once hiring a band to play at her house and setting up speakers that faced the neighbor's yard instead of her own. She wasn't just entitled, she was a menace. That night I sat on my patio, now cleaned up but still smelling faintly of grilled corn and Karen's hubris, and thought about how to handle this. I could lawyer up. I could escalate to the city. But those were slow, boring solutions. I wanted something faster, something louder. And that's when the idea hit me. My cousin Tank, yes, that's his real nickname, is getting married. He's the chaplain for a biker club called the Southern Sons. They'd been looking for a venue for weeks but kept getting turned down for being too rowdy. I knew for a fact Tank would love the space, and if Karen thought my backyard was a public park, then I'd give her an event she'd never forget. I picked up my phone, dialed Tank, and said, "How would you like to have your biker wedding at my place, open bar, full band and fireworks included?" Tank shouted so loud with joy I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "Just tell me when cousin will bring the whole gang." As I hung up and imagined Karen's reaction to 50 Harley engines revving outside her white picket fence, I finally felt the peace she'd stolen from me return. It was temporary, sure, but I knew the best revenge was loud, legal, and impossible to ignore. Let the HOA try to find me. Let Karen call the cops, because soon she'd learn the hard way you don't trespass on a nerd's backyard and expect to walk away unscathed. Tank didn't waste a second. By the next morning, he had a group chat going with me, his fiancée Darla, and about a dozen of his biker brothers. The messages rolled in fast. Questions about parking space for motorcycles where they could put up temporary tents, whether I'd mind a tattoo artist setting up a booth near the fire pit. At one point, someone asked if I had room for a mechanical bull. I thought they were joking, but Tank replied, "Just bring the inflatable mat. We'll figure it out." Darla chimed in saying she wanted a fire-breathing performer for the first dance. I was half terrified, half thrilled. This wasn't just a wedding anymore. This was a full-on spectacle in the making, and it was going to happen right under Karen's nose. Darla was sweet, but had an edge. She worked in event planning, mostly for alternative weddings, so this was like her Super Bowl. She told me she'd handle the permits, rental equipment, and caterers. You just keep your yard open and make sure your neighbors know they're welcome unless they're HOA board members. In that case, they can watch from behind their curtains. I offered to chip in financially, but Darla refused. "You're already giving us the venue," she said. "Besides, Tank says this is revenge. Revenge doesn't come with a price tag." I liked her already. In just 3 days, my once quiet backyard transformed into something out of a rock concert. Darla brought in a wedding planner friend who specialized in themed events. Giant Gothic lanterns hung from strings of fairy lights. A stage was set up on the far side of the yard, complete with sound equipment and a light rig that pulsed different colors during the sound check. There was even a custom arch shaped like two intertwined motorcycle handlebars for Tank and Darla to say their vows under. I watched it all go up with a mixture of awe and anticipation, sipping coffee like a man about to commit the most satisfying act of civil disobedience imaginable. The neighbors were curious. Some cautiously peeked over their fences. A few came by to ask what was happening, and I was honest. "Biker wedding," I said. "Live music and fireworks." Some raised eyebrows. Others laughed and asked if they could attend. I said, anyone who wasn't on the HOA board or married to Karen was more than welcome. Word spread fast. People started bringing in lawn chairs and offering to help set up. I hadn't even meant to start a movement, but somehow this whole fiasco was turning into a party the neighborhood actually wanted. Karen showed up on the 4th day of setup right as Tank's crew was unloading 2 kegs and a drum set. She stormed across my driveway, weaving between motorcycles like she was dodging landmines. I was helping Darla hang black and red streamers when I saw her stomping up, face already flushed. "What is going on here?" she demanded, arms crossed, voice sharp enough to slice drywall. I gave her my most innocent smile. "Just setting up for a small community event." She hissed, "This is not sanctioned by the HOA." I nodded. "Good thing it's on my private property then." Karen narrowed her eyes. "You can't host public events without board approval," she snapped. There was a lot more to it, but by then I was no longer listening.